Alright, hi, Passenger Equipment Safety Standards, Subpart A, General Provisions, Module 1. Module objectives different between qualified maintenance personnel and qualified person. Compute the percentage operated brakes based on given scenario. List operational restrictions placed on passenger trains with power brake defects based on given scenario. Applicability applies to railroads that operate intercity commuter passenger trains surface standard gauge track, which part of the general railroad system of transportation. Railroads that provide commuter, other short-haul rail passenger train service to metropolitan suburban area described in Title 49 U.S. Standard Code 2102. 1. Include public authorities operating passenger train services. Applicability continued. Does not apply to the rapid transit operation in urban areas that are not connected with the general railroad system of transportation. Railroad that operates only in track inside of the installation is not part of the general railroad system of transportation. Tourist, scenic, historic, and excursion operations, whether on or off the general railroad system of transportation, and circus trains. Definitions 238.5. The dozen of the definitions listed in the rule will discuss only with the definitions that impact the understanding of what we will be attempting to impart to you this week's. Anti-climbing mechanism means of the part ends of the joining of the vehicle to the train designed to engage the subjected large buff loads to prevent override of one vehicle by another. Brake is effective. Means if the brake is capable to do the required designing retarded force on the train. Brake is not effective if its piston travel excessive of the maximum prescribed limit on vehicles equipped with a nominal 12-inch stroke brake cylinders. The brake is not effective if the piston travel exceeds 10.5 inches. Brakes indicator means the device actuated by brake cylinder pressure which indicates whether the brakes are applied or released. Brake inoperative. It means the primary brake for any reason that no longer apply with the release intended for the otherwise ineffective. Brakes primary means for the components of the train brake system necessary to stop the train within the signal spacing distance without thermal damage to friction braking surfaces. Braking secondary means for the components of the train brake system with a developed supplemental brake retarding force that is not needed to stop the train with a signal spacing distance to prevent thermal damage to the friction of braking surfaces. Brake system blended means of the braking system where the primary brake or one or more secondary brakes are automatically combined to stop the train, where the secondary brakes are unavailable. The blended brake uses the primary brake alone to stop the train. Calendar day means a time period running from one midnight to the next midnight on a given date. Class 1 brake test means a complete passenger train brake system inspection is further specified in 238.313, performing a qualified person to ensure that the air brake system is 100% effective. Class 1A brake test means the test inspection further specified at 238.315, performed by a qualified person of the air brake system on each car in a passenger train to ensure that the brake supply will release on each car and train to response of the train line commands. Class 2 brake test means the test inspection further specified by 238.317, performed by a qualified person, brake pipe integrity continuity from controlling locomotive to the rear unit of the passenger train. Emergency window means the segment of side-facing glazing panel which has been designed to permit rapid and easy removal in the emergency situation. Head-end power means the power generated on board locomotive of the passenger train used for the purpose of propelling the train, such as cooking, heating, illumination, ventilation, and air conditioning. In passenger revenue service means for the train passenger equipment is carrying and available to carry with the passenger for the need not to have paid within fair order for the equipment to be considered within the passenger revenue service. In service use connection with the passenger equipment. It means for the passenger equipment subject to this part that is in the passenger revenue service and all other passenger equipment is subject to this part unless the passenger's equipment is being handled in accordance with the 238.15, 17, 305C5, and 503F as applicable is in the repair shop or on the repair track, is on the storage track, or is not carrying passengers, or has been delivered at interchange but has not been accepted by the receiving railroad. Interior fitting means for the component of the passenger compartment which is mounted with the floor, ceiling, side walls, and walls project for the passenger compartment more than 1 inch from the surface of the surface to which is mounted. The interior fittings do not include side and walls, floors, door pockets, ceiling, and lining materials, for example. Luminescent materials mean material with absorbed light energy with the ambient level of the light with a high emitted with the stored energy with the ambient level of the light are low with the making of the material appear to glow in the dark. Occupied volume means the volume of the rail vehicle with the passenger train with the passenger crew members are normally located during the trip of the operation, so if the operation cab passenger seating sleeping area with the entire width of the vehicle's end of the compartment with it contains the control stand is an occupied volume vestibule. It's typically not a considerable occupied except for the containing of the control stand used for the control cab. Power car means the rail vehicle that propels Terrier 2 passenger train is the lead vehicle in the Terrier 2 passenger train or both. Pre-revenue service acceptance testing plan, meaning the document further specified 238.111. Prepared by a railroad, explain with the detail how pre-revenues for the test of the passenger equipment demonstrate with equipment that meets with the federal safety standards, railroad's own safety requirements. Primary responsibility, meaning with the task of the person performed with it during at least 50% of the time that the person is working with the totality of the circumstance for the considered by on case-to-case basis with the circumstances where an individual does not spend 50% of his or her work day engaged in any one of the readily identifiable type of the activity time spent supervising an employee with a gauge of the function of the troubleshooting, inspection, testing, maintenance, or repair of train, brake, and mechanical components. Special systems covered by this part shall be considered for the work with generally consistent with the function of the troubleshooting such system components for the purpose of the definition of the term definition as qualified maintenance person. Qualified maintenance person means the qualified person who has received as part of the training qualification designation program required in the 238.109 instruction training that included the hand-on experience with the unappropriate supervision or apprenticeship in one or more of the following functions: troubleshooting, inspection, testing, maintenance, or repair, specifically train, brake, or of the component system for which the person is assigned responsibility. Qualified maintenance person will continue. The person shall also possess the current understanding of what is required to properly repair or maintain safety critical brake mechanical components for which the person is assigned responsibility. Further, the qualified maintenance person shall be for the person with whose primary responsibility includes the work generally consistent with the above reference function of designated to conduct Class 1 brake tests under this part, conduct exterior calendar day mechanical inspection of the multiple unit locomotives, other passenger cars, unpowered vehicles under this part, or determine whether the equipment is not in compliance with this part of the move and that may be moved as required by the 238.17. Alright, qualified person means for the person who received this part of the training qualification designation program required in the 238.109 with the instruction training necessary for the perform one or more functions required under this part. Railroad is responsible for determining if the personnel that has the knowledge skills necessary to perform the required function of which the person is assigned responsibility with the railroad to determine the qualification competency of the employee designated with the perform of the various functions of the manner set forth in this part. Qualified person continued. Although the rules used for the qualified person to describe the person responsible for performing the various functions required by the under the part of the person may be deemed qualified to perform some functions but not qualified to perform other functions. For example, although a person may be deemed qualified to perform a Class 2 brake test described by this part of the same person may or may not be qualified to perform a Class 1A brake test authorized movement of the defective equipment under this part of the railroad to determine the required function for which the individual is deemed the qualified person based upon the instruction training individually that has received pursuant to the 238.109 with a particular function. Refresher training means for the periodic retraining required by the railroad for the employee with the contractor to remain qualified to perform specific equipment and inspection, testing, and maintenance function. Repair point means for the location designated for the railroad where the repair for the type of the necessary for the curve of the regular basis. A repair point should have the facility for the tool of the person qualified to make the necessary repairs as a repair point needed not to be staffed continuously. Respond as intended means to produce the result of the device or system that is designed to produce. Running brake tests means a test that is further specified by the 238.319 performed by the qualified person of the train system component while the train is in motion to verify that the system of the component functions as intended. Running gear defect means a condition not in compliance with the part involved with the truck with the component with the draft system component with a wheel or wheel component. Safety appliance means appliance required under Title 49 U.S. Standard Code Chapter 203 exclude the power brake with the term include the automatic coupler, handbrake, sill steps, handhold, handrails, ladder treads, and may be made of steel with a material with equal or greater mechanical strength used for the traveling public or railroad employees with the provide with the meaning of the safety coupling, uncoupling, with the ascending, with the descending of the passenger equipment. Safety critical, meaning with the component system and the task, if not available, the defective, non-function, with the non-function correctly, with the non-perform correctly, increase the risk of the damage of the passenger equipment or to the injury of the personal passenger, crew member, or other person. Semi-permanently coupled, meaning with the coupled, meaning with the drawbar with the other coupling mechanism required with the tools to perform uncoupling operation. Coupling and uncoupling for the semi-permanently coupled unit in a train can be performed safely only while at maintenance shop or location, whether the person can safely get under a unit or between units. Shock absorbent material. The names of the materials designed to prevent and mitigate injuries due to the impact of the yielding and absorb of much of the injury. Energy of the impact. Spall glazing means a small place of the glazing with a fly out of the back surface of the glazing when an object strikes the front surface. Telescope means overriding a joining rail vehicle unit and penetrating the interior of the joining vehicle or unit because of the compressive forces. Terminal means a starting point, ending point with a single scheduled trip of the train wherever the passengers meet with a get on and off the train. Normally, the location is the point where the train would reverse direction with the train's destinations. Terrier 1 means operating speed not exceeding 125 miles an hour. Terrier 2 means operating speed exceeding 125 miles an hour but not exceeding 150 miles an hour. Tourist and scenic historic and excursion operation means railroad operating with a carry of the passenger, often using the antiquated equipment with conveyancy of the passenger for the particular destination not being principal purpose. Train commuter, a passenger train provided with a commuter service with the urban and suburban and the metropolitan area of the term, include with the passenger train provided with the instrumentality of the state and the political subdivision of the state. Train long-distance intercity passenger. For the passenger train with a provided the service between the large cities more than 125 miles apart, but not operated exclusively with the National Railroad Passenger Corporation's North and East Corridor. Train passenger. For the meaning of the transporter is available to transport member of the general public if the train is composed with a mixture of the passenger and freight equipment, but the train is a passenger train for the purpose of this part. Train short-distance intercity passenger. The means of passenger train that provides service exclusively to the National Railroad Passenger Corporation Northeast Territory between cities that are not more than 125 miles per hour. Train Terrier 2 passenger means a short-distance, long-distance intercity passenger of the train provides service for the speed that includes the exceeding 125 miles an hour but not exceeding 150 miles an hour. Train set passenger mean with the passenger train. Unit means the passenger equipment of any type except the freight locomotive when used to haul passenger train due to failure of the passenger locomotive. Unoccupied volume means the volume of the rail vehicle passenger train which does not contain the seating that is normally occupied by the passenger or crew members. Vehicle rail means passenger equipment any type that includes the car, trail car, locomotive, power car, tender, similar vehicle, but this term does not include the freight locomotive when used to the haul of the passenger train due to the failure of the passenger locomotive. Movement of the repair. True provisions for the movement of the defective equipment. Movement for the repair with power defect brake defects. 238.15. Movement for repair with other power to brake defects. 238.17. Both provisions have limitations and conditions that must be followed in order to movement to be allowed without civil penalty liability. Both provisions essentially would apply with the Terrier 1 equipment in certain sections of provisions apply with the Terrier 2 and are incorporated with the reference C-238.503E and F. Railroad not relieved of the liability in the event with the death of the injury. Railroad employee arising for the movement of the defective equipment referred to above. Equipment defective under Part 229 and used in passenger service will also be subject to the restriction imposed within Part 229 and 9. Movement of the repair with power defects of the defects. 238.15. At the time of the Class 1A brake test for the performed movement, it may occur without civil penalty liability provided with the following conditions are met. Train moved for the repair without passenger. Apt for the operation restrictions based on the percent of the operative brakes on the train. Defective equipment properly tagged and information recorded via the automated tracking system. Train moved without passenger with scrapping or sale at the speeds of 15 miles an hour or less and in accordance with the railroad's air brake and power brake instruction. Power brake defects en route. En route, after Class 1A brake tests is performed, movement may occur without civil penalty liability provided with the following conditions are met. Brakes were operative at Class 1A brake tests and became defective en route. Applicable operation restriction based on percent of the operative brakes and train. Defective equipment that properly tagged information recorded via the automatic tracking system. Power brake defects en route continued. If the en route power brake defect caused the brake tube the inoperative the cutout, the percentage of the operated brakes on the train must be calculated. Notify the dispatcher of the percentage of the operated brakes on the train movement with the restriction. Notify the mechanical department of the failure. Confirm the percentage of the operated brakes by performing the walking inspection in the next location where the railroad responsibly judges that it is safe to do so. Testing and core defective equipment. Power brake defects. Tagging card must be placed on the car at the time of the defect with discovered. Apply it period of the bolt side of the defective equipment. In lieu of the tag of the car of the railroad may be used the automatic tracking system. In either case, the following information must be recorded on the record: the reporting mark of the in-car and the locomotive number, the name of the inspection railroad, the name of the inspector, the inspection location, the date, the nature of each of the defect, destination of the defective equipment, repair point, and the signature, if possible, job title of the person reporting with a defective condition. Automatic tracking system must be accessible for the review at any time of the FRA and railroad or by railroad employees. Automated system must be secure with contain information of the previous slide, adequately track the monitor of the movement of the defective equipment. Failure to comply with the performance could lead to the FRA revoking the railroad's option over the using the automatic tracking system. Alright, operating restriction and defective brakes. Verifying depending on the total number of the operated brakes on the train and the type of the train. Operating restriction required in order to move within community with a civil penalty and liability. Computation of the percent of operated brakes. A train equipped with the disc brakes only with a combination of the disc and tread brakes on units to determine the percentage of operated per hour brake within the train divided by the number of the axles for the operated brakes and total of the number of axles. For a train equipped with only with the tread braking units and the drive divided numbers of the operated with the tread braking units or total number of the tread braking units. Each cut out axle on a locomotive that weighs more than 200,000 pounds should be counted as a two cut out axle for the purpose of the calculating the percentage of the operated brakes. Disc and tread brakes. If an axle is equipped with both the disc and tread brakes, if either with the disc or tread, the brake is operative, the axle is considered to have an operative brakes. Other brake defects. The following brake defects should not be considered the calculating percentage of the operative brakes on a train. The failure of cutting out the secondary brake system, hand brakes with the parking brakes, except the piston travel that does not render brake ineffective. The brakes overdue with the inspection, testing, and maintenance and testing. Operating restriction on all passenger train. All passenger trains that develop 50 to 74% of the operated power brakes may be used only as follows. The train may be moved in passenger service only to the next forward passenger station. Speed of the train shall be restricted to 20 miles per hour or less, and after all of the passengers discharge the defective equipment, it should be moved to the nearest location where the necessary repairs can be made. Operating restrictions from 75 to 84% operative brakes. Commuter short distance, intercity, short distance, chariot 2 passenger trains with 75 to 84% brakes operative must reduce train maximum level speed by 50% or to 40 miles an hour, whichever left. Move to the next forward location where repair can be made. If the passenger service at the risk movement of the train with the next for the forward with the passenger train with the passenger can be safely unnoted. After the passenger is discharged, the train must be moved to the nearest location for repair. Operating restriction at 85 to 99% of the operative brakes. Commuter short distance, intercity short distance, area 2 passenger trains with 85 to 99% of the brakes operated must move to the next forward location where the repair can be made with the passenger safety at risk for the train may be moved to the next forward passenger station where the passenger can be safely unloaded. After the passengers are discharged, the train must be moved to the nearest location for repair. Operating restriction: a long-distance intercity passenger train with 75 to 84% of operative brakes must reduce train maximum allowable speed with 50% with a 40 miles per hour, whichever to left. The move to the next destination forward, a location where the repair can be made. If the passenger safety, if the risk, move with the train with the next for the forward passenger train where the passenger can be safely unloaded. After the passenger as or discharge of the train must be moved to the nearest location for repair. Operation restriction: long distance intercity passenger train with the 85 to 99% operative brakes must be moved to the next destination forward, a location where the repair can be made. If the passenger safety risk, move with the train with the next forward passenger station where the passenger can be safely unloaded. After the passenger is discharged, with the train must be moved to the nearest location for the repair. Operating restriction on all passenger trains. All passenger train with a competitively inoperative power brake for the front and rear unit with a handbrake is located to the inside of the car with the following conditions apply. Qualified personnel must be stationed with a handbrake for the cars must be locked out, emptied, and no passenger with a appropriate speed restricted must be placed on the train when the qualified personnel. Operating restricted to all passenger trains. All passenger trains with completely inoperative power brakes in the front and with the rear unit of the handbrake is located outside of the car, otherwise inaccessible with the following conditions apply. Care must be locked out and empty with no passengers. Train shall be operated with a restricted speed but not to exceed 25 miles per hour. Car shall be removed from the train with a reposition and the train with the first location where it is possible to do so. Practice. Refer to these scenarios in the handouts. Movement of the repair of the power brake defects 238.17. Running gear defects found at the time of the calendar date. Mechanical inspection may be removed for the repair, and the qualified maintenance person determines if the safety move to notify the train crew of an appropriate movement restriction. If not, give the passenger service if move is moved in a non-revenue train and is properly tagged. Non-running gear defects. Non-running gear defects found at any time of the calendar day. Mechanical inspection may be removed for repair. The qualified maintenance person determines the safety to move and notify the train crew any of the movement restriction can be made other than face-to-face, including through a third-party search, such as yardmaster. Cars locked out and empty, properly tagged. Movement restriction observed. And exemptions. Asterisk stands for the exemptions made by the certain interior defects. Running gear defects en route. Equipment that develop with the running gear with the defect within route that may be moved only if the qualified person determines the shape of the price or exists the appropriate speed with the other restriction. This may be based on the description of the crew member provided with the inspection of the qualified maintenance person for the first location possible. Qualified maintenance person notifies the crew member of the defect with equipment at any speed with the other restriction. Running gear and non-running gear defects. After a qualified maintenance person verifies with the safety of the equipment the defect of running gear, either the qualified maintenance or qualified person may for the verification of non-running gear defect. The equipment may continue with the passenger service but no later than the next calendar day mechanical inspection unless repairs are made. Non-running gear defects en route. The equipment developed with a non-running gear defect may be moved only if the qualified maintenance person determines if the safety move and apply with the inappropriate speed with the other restriction may be made upon the description provided with the on-site with the personnel. Qualified maintenance person notified by the crew member of the defect with equipment at any speed with the other restriction. Qualified maintenance person versus qualified person. Qualified maintenance person authorized to make all movement for the repair determination. Qualified persons may make only the running gear movement for the repair determination. Qualified maintenance person may make movement for the repair determination off-site, but must physically inspect the defective equipment at the first location possible. Tagging and recording a defective equipment. Running gear with a non-running gear defect with a tag car must be played from the car time of the defect with the discover the period with the both side with the defective equipment in lieu of the tag with the car of the railroad may use the automated tracking system. In either case, the following information must be recorded on the record. The reporting mark of the car of the locomotive number, the name of the inspection railroad, the name of the inspector for the inspection location of the date with the nature of each defect, the designation of the defective equipment and repair point with a signature if possible, and job title of the person reporting with the defective condition. Automated track system must be accessible for the review anytime with the FRA with the railroad employees. Automated system must be contained with the information from the previous slide with adequately track with the monitor for the movement of the defective equipment. If failure to comply with these requirements could lead to FRA revoking railroad operations using automated tracking system. Maintaining repair records. Railroads shall be maintained record of the reported defect in accordance with 238.19, where the records can be written or electronic. Inspection or derailed equipment. If the equipment involved with a derailment, there must be an inspection test of the roller bearings in accordance with the railroad procedure for handling derailed equipment before the equipment continues, and further addition of the more stringent requirement is triggered by the severity of the derailment with the addition of the equipment as described in the next slide. Inspection of roller bearings. Roller bearings should be disassembled with the axle inspection internally. If it shows that the external signs of the damage makes unusual noise when the wheel set is spun freely on the track, rolling test is acceptable when the bearing is manually rotated. Speed of the time derailment more than 10 miles an hour. Truck was dragged on the ground distance for more than 100 feet. Movement of the passenger equipment and safety applying with the defect with the safety appliance. If the defects moved from the repair in accordance with the Title 49 U.S. Standard Code 2033 and tagging requirements previously discussed. Special notice for repair form 8. Notice nothing in the 238.17 authorized the move of the passenger equipment is subject to the FRA special notice of the repair of the form FRA 61 F 6188 unless the movement of it is made in accordance with the restrictions contained in the special notice. Practice. Refer to the scenario in handout. Reporting train defect and equipment 238.19. Each railroad required to have the reporting tracking system defect for the equipment. The training system may have handwritten electronic format must contain the following: the identification number of the defect for the equipment data, the defect, for the discover the nature of the defect, the determination made by the qualified person, qualified maintenance person on whether the equipment is safe to run, name of the qualified person, qualified maintenance person making the determination, operation restrictions if applicable, the repair and repairs and date. Retention of records. At a minimum, the railroad shall keep the record of the period equal to the one periodic maintenance interval for each specific type of equipment. The records must be made available to the FRA upon request. List of the power break and repair points. Railroad operative with a long-distance internship with the territory of the equipment must designate location in the writing where the repair of the power defect will be made with a provide with a list of the FRA headquarters. Make a list available to any FRA inspector upon request. Give the FRA 30 days in advance with a written notice before the making changes to the locations. Special approval procedures. The process also passes railroads to petition the FRA on issues relating alternative standards under the various sections of the rule, e.g., fire safety, fuel tanks, single car tests, etc. Single maintenance power and equipment inspector will not be involved in this process. This is the end of the module 1. Take a break.